The jungle sky was bleeding red. Birds weren't flying. Insects had vanished. Deep under the surface of Deathworld 9, something ancient had just moved. The soil cracked like thunder. Trees collapsed without warning. A tremor spread across the entire continent, and then silence. Not a peaceful silence. A warning. Light years away, aboard Earth's deep space explorer ship Vanguard, alarms blared across the control deck. Commander Rylan rushed in, eyes locked on the glowing red pulse. Flashing on the screen, it was a signal. But not a distress call. This wasn't human. It wasn't even a message. It was a roar, and it echoed through the stars. This came from the far edge of Deathworld 9, the II said flatly. But there was no satellite there. Raylan's jaw tightened. She knew that planet was uninhabitable, even by Earth's brutal standards. Or so they thought. Back on the planet, something enormous opened its eyes for the first time in 1,000 years. Thought it hadn't forgotten what humans did to their last enemy. And this time, it was ready. Captain Mace didn't look like much in the med bay light, just another scarred soldier in a sleeveless combat shirt, reading a mission brief with half interest. But everyone knew his record, the only human to survive the acid storms of Sulan 5 without armor. The man who once tore apart a jungle worm with nothing but a blade and a broken arm. He wasn't just strong. He was a Deathworld native Earthborn, war-forged. Now they needed him again. Deathworld 9? He said quietly, staring at the image of a red jungle that seemed to breathe. That planet eats machines. Commander Raylan nodded. This thing. It's different. The signal wasn't random. It's intelligent. Maybe even a challenge. Mace cracked his knuckles. Good. It's been too quiet lately. Hours later, he stood inside his drop pod, geared in hardened nano armor, plasma blade on his back. But something strange began to happen as the pod approached the surface. Static filled the comms. The eye cut out. Time slowed. Mace didn't feel fear, but something else did stir inside him. Instinct. He wasn't being watched by a machine. He wasn't being watched by nature. He was being watched by something that had been waiting for a fight. And as the pod burned through the clouds of Deathworld 9, a voice whispered into Mace's mind, not in words, but in hunger. Finally. Another one. The pod slammed into the surface like a meteor, carving a crater into the blood-red soil. Steam hissed from the hatch as it opened with a slow groan. Captain Mace stepped out, eyes scanning the landscape, breathing in air that smelled like rust and burnt oil. Deathworld -9 wasn't just alive, it was hostile. Trees towered hundreds of feet above, their bark like sharpened scales. Leaves dripped acid. Vines pulsed like muscle. The entire jungle moved with a rhythm, as if it had a heartbeat. Mace activated his helmet scanner. The readings made no sense. Life signs everywhere, but none stay still. Suddenly, a tree groaned, then twisted itself away from him. A flock of winged lizards burst from the canopy and vanished into the sky. Silence fell again. Even the wind stopped moving. Mace stepped forward, and his boots sank into something soft. Not mud. Flesh. He knelt and pulled back a layer of wet moss. Beneath it, the remains of a metal exosuit, crushed, torn open, still glowing faintly. Not human tech. Just then, the ground shook. Mace looked up. Carved into the mountain wall ahead was a massive gash 20 meters long, deep, and still smoking. Not from an explosion, from claws. He drew his blade, voice low. Whatever did that is watching. Behind him, the vines silently slithered back into the trees. And deep in the jungle, a single glowing eye opened. The jungle didn't move. It shifted like it was holding its breath. Captain Mace crept toward the cliffside where the claw marks had been burned into stone. His scanner shorted out. His HUD glitched. Then the mountain trembled. Boom. A sound like thunder cracked through. The valley. The ground erupted beneath him, stone splitting, roots tearing apart like string. A massive shape rose from the earth, coated in dirt and armor like scales. Red light gleamed beneath its skin like molten metal flowing through veins. Then it stood tall. 30 feet. Twin arms ending in blades, legs like tree trunks. A head, crowned with horns, and a face shaped like a war mask, glowing with alien code. It looked part machine, part monster, but completely alive. Mace backed up, blade drawn. The creature didn't charge. It looked at him, studied him. Then, its deep voice rolled across the air like grinding rock. "You are not prey. You are challenge." Mace's grip tightened. "You talk." The creature's mouth didn't move, but the voice boomed louder. "I have crushed 1,000 species, but only 2 I call rival. Earth and my own." The jungle bent under the pressure of its presence. Leaves blackened. Birds fell dead from the sky. "I am Karoth, last of the Score Titans. Prove your worth, or be broken." And then it moved with the speed of lightning and the weight of a mountain. Karoth lunged. Mace rolled beneath. A crushing strike that split the earth like glass. Trees exploded into fire from the shockwave. He came up fast, blade glowing, and slashed across the Titan's arm, but it barely scratched the outer shell. Karoth growled, not in pain but in approval. "Good. Fight like your planet does." They clashed again, metal against plasma, instinct against design. Karoth claws could tear tanks in half. Mace dodged narrowly, using terrain to stay mobile. He leapt onto a boulder, kicked off, and drove his blade into the Titan's shoulder. Sparks and blood sprayed. Karoth roared, shaking the forest, and slammed Mace into a tree with one swing. Bones cracked. His HUD shattered. The forest shook, still. Mace stood back up. "I've fought gods," he said, coughing blood. "You're just another loud one." Karoth charged, rage burning bright, but Mace was done testing. He triggered a remote explosive planted on the cliff above. Rocks collapsed in a tidal wave of stone and dust, burying the Titan beneath tons of mountain. Silence. Dust hung in the air. Mace limped forward, breathing hard. But before he could speak, a low chuckle rumbled from beneath the rubble. A massive hand pushed through. Then the voice returned, calmer this time. Yes, worthy. Karoth was not dead. He had been waiting for someone strong enough to make him kneel. And now, he had found him. Karoth's massive hand pushed aside the rubble, revealing glowing eyes locked on Mace. But instead of attacking, the Titan lowered its head and stretched out a claw. Suddenly, Mace felt a strange pulse in his helmet, like electricity mixed with thoughts. A voice echoed inside his mind, not words, but feelings and images. He saw a shattered world, craters filled with ash and ruins, cities swallowed by vines and rust. The last survivors of Karoth's race, the Score, hunted by an unstoppable enemy called the Collectors. The Titan's thoughts were clear. We were warriors once. Now we are ghosts. But Earth is strong. Earth could fight back. Mace's heart pounded as the neural link grew stronger. Karoth showed him visions of war, galaxies burning, planets falling, civilizations lost. We came to test Earth's power. The Titan's voice rumbled in his mind. To see if you would kneel or fight. Mace shook off the connection, but knew this was no ordinary enemy. Karoth wasn't just a beast. It was a warning, and the real war was only beginning. Mace stood face to face with the Titan, his armor scorched, his blade still humming with heat. Around them, the red jungle groaned, alive with tension. Karoth's deep voice echoed again, this time through both air and mind. Earth is powerful, but power without submission is suicide. Kneel, and we will guide you. Mace's jaw tightened. He had seen entire colonies burn. He had seen monsters try to tame humanity before. And he knew one truth burned in every Terran heart. Earth kneels to no one. He stepped forward, eyes unshaken. Your people fell. Mine didn't. We don't kneel. Not to gods, not to ghosts. Karotha's voice turned cold. Then prove your survival wasn't luck. Suddenly, the Titan's body lit up with ancient symbols. A mind duel began not with fists, but with memories and war tactics shared across the neural link. Karoth showed ancient battles, giant fleets in orbit, precision strikes, weapons forged from dying stars, Mace countered with Earth's madness, guerrilla warfare. A single soldier turning a moonbase inside out. Starvation sieges. Ice planet ambushes. Death turned into victory. Karoth stumbled back, stunned. Your species ... It thrives in chaos. Mace stepped closer. We don't survive because of war. We survive through it. The Titan paused, and for the first time looked unsure, just. As Mace and Karoth began to form an uneasy alliance, the sky exploded in a burst of deadly light. Hundreds of collector drones swarmed into orbit, their weapons turning the jungle below into burning ash. The air crackled with energy blasts. Trees ignited like torches. The ground shook under the drone's assault. Mace gritted his teeth, gripping his plasma blade. They found us faster than I thought. Karotha's glowing eyes blazed. They seek to kill all Deathworld survivors. We must stand together. Side by side, human and Titan faced the burning sky. Plasma fire met metal claws. The jungle turned to battlefield. With a roar, Karoth charged the first wave of drones, tearing through steel and circuits. Mace fired his pulse rifle, cutting down drones with deadly precision. This is just the beginning, Mace said, voice grim. If we fall here, no one else will survive. They fought with everything: muscle, technology, and willpower. The sky burned red, and Earth's fate hung by a thread. The battlefield was silent again. Smoke curled above the ruins of the jungle. Collector drones lay in shattered piles, still twitching, their circuitry fried. The ground was blackened. Trees had melted. The sky still glowing from the fight crackled. With fading energy. Captain Mace stood with his rifle lowered, breathing heavily, blood trickling from a cut above his brow. Karoth knelt beside him, his body scorched, armor cracked, glowing core exposed, but alive. Then, slowly, the Titan moved. Karoth turned to face Mace, then dropped to one knee, not from defeat, not from exhaustion, from respect. His voice was quieter now, steady, ancient. Earth does not kneel. Earth commands, you have proven it. Above them, satellites across the quadrant picked up the scene. Live-streamed signals relayed Mace's image standing tall beside the kneeling Titan across hundreds of systems. Deathworld colonies, survivors, exiles. They all saw it. One by one, signals came in from deep space-coded messages from other feared worlds. We recognize Earth. We follow strength. Earth leads now. For the first time in galactic memory, the predators have forgotten. Planets, the beasts of broken worlds, united under a single banner: Kalon Earth. And Mace? He simply whispered, then let's finish this. The fires on Deathworld 9 had cooled. The skies no longer burned, but the stars were watching. Captain Mace stood aboard the Vanguard, now repaired and orbiting high above. Behind him, Karoth loomed silently, once a Titan of conquest, now a symbol of something much greater. All across the galaxy, encrypted messages surged through deep space. On the ice moons of Vorga, on the acid seas of Yevon, on asteroid fortresses orbiting dying suns, Deathworld survivors stirred. One by one, they answered the call. Earth wasn't just feared anymore. It was followed. A new alliance formed, not of diplomats, but of monsters. Titans, soldiers, survivors. A council of chaos forged by the unkillable. Commander Ryland's voice came through the bridge. Collective forces are regrouping. We have weeks, maybe less, Mace nodded. Then it's time we stop surviving and start striking. Behind him, Karoth placed one giant claw on a holomap, marking the Collector's stronghold. Let the galaxy remember, Karoth growled. What happens when they try to cage a Deathworld? Mace smiled faintly. Let's show them what Earth really is. And as the Deathworld Alliance fleet formed in orbit made of creatures no one dared to name, a new era began. One where no world would kneel again.